Families living in Maynard in the 1930s would never think that their land would be taken from them to help fight off one of the worst evils that this planet has ever seen. But in March of 1942, in the small town of Maynard, Sudbury, Stowe, and Hudson, Massachusetts, over 80 families faced this exact situation. First, we must go back in time and also back to how the town was created. The town was carved out of Sudbury and Stowe in April of 1871, and everything north of the Assabet River was from Stowe, and everything south was from Sudbury. The town was 8.27 miles in length and 5.4 square miles. Maynard was officially founded on April 19th, 1871, exactly 76 years after the start of the American Revolution. In the centuries leading up to the mid-17th century, the land was settled by the Nipmuc people. They lived here for hundreds of years, and it is believed that up to 10,000 natives from this tribe lived in the central Massachusetts Assabet region for years prior to the Puritans settling in the mid-1600s. One of the most well-known Indians was a man named Tannenmouse, or Old Jethro as known to the European settlers. Fast forward to the early winter of 1941, the United States had been brutally attacked by the Japanese at Pearl Harbor on December 7th, and by the next day the country was at war with the Japanese and the Nazis in Germany. In 1942, the U.S. Army found it necessary to set up ammunition depots around the country, especially close to the coast, so that they could ship ammo out to the Europe or Pacific theaters faster. One of these ammo depots was located in the small town of Maynard, Hudson, Sudbury, and Stowe, Massachusetts. Of the 3,100 acres that the Army took to create the base, 800 of those acres were from our town of Maynard. The area was chosen because it was close enough to the Boston seaport so that ships could carry the ammo to Europe, but it was also far enough inland that if German ships and U-boats appeared on the coast, the shelling wouldn't reach the base. In early 1942, the government went to federal court with a compelling reason that they could take the land from these four towns. The legal effort was led by Edmund Brandon. On March 25th, the District Court of the United States for the District of Massachusetts granted permission to proceed with the seizing of the land in the spring of 42. The United States government used a method called eminent domain to take the land from the families. This is what the letter said that was written to each family. In the interest of national defense, the government has found it necessary to acquire an area of land lying partly in the township of Maynard. As you doubtless know, your property on Puffer Road lies within this area. On March 25th, 1942, this property was granted to the government under the War Purpose Act. It now becomes necessary to ask you to arrange to move from your house at the earliest possible time. Your cooperation will indeed be very much appreciated. Please feel free to call this office, Mr. Willis, Concord, 1450, if you care to ask any questions concerning this matter. Most of the families living in the area that was seized were farmers and had been on the land for many, many years, and their ancestors had been on it for many, many years before them. If you go to the Assabet Wildlife Reservation, you can see the remains of old houses, including a foundation and an old fireplace, chimney, and stone walls, which indicate that people had lived there. You will also notice many bunkers. Down this path lay train tracks that would carry cars full of ammunition to Boston from these bunkers. The dimension of these bunkers, or igloos as they were called, are 81 feet by 26 feet by 12 feet, and each is equipped with a chimney/chute and loading dock, which has a massive steel locking door to protect from unwanted things such as people, water, and animals. Of the 50 bunkers created, all were given a number, and as you can see here, this bunker is 309, and this is bunker 311. The Maynard Ordnance Supply Depot, called Maynard because Maynard lost more land than other towns, operated from 1942 to 1958, and was operated as the Natick Army Labs from 1958 to 1982, which during this time period the Army tested chemical pesticides and field equipment in the area, which contaminated most of the land. This continued into the 1980s when the land was being used as part of Fort Devens. An oil spill in 1985 alerted the Army to potential underground water and soil pollution. Primary substance was volatile organic contaminants, insecticides, and pesticides. The 9-year cleanup removed the underground storage tanks, as well as the gallons of poison and tons of contaminated soil. Finally, in 2005, it became part of the Assabet River National Wildlife Reserve. This is where we stand to date as of May 2nd, 2025. If you can ever get up to the Wildlife Reserve, I highly recommend it. This is also where my time here comes to an end, and I will thank you for watching this video. Thank you to the Maynard Historical Society for providing me with video and information to help me make this project.